So when you first got into B2B sales, how did you learn how to deal with rejection?
Honestly, it's when I first got into B2B sales, I didn't know how to really respond. I internalized it a lot. I took it to heart, let it affect me, and as I moved through the motions and started kind of benchmarking best practices from the other top performers in the office, I just saw that they had like some sort of resiliency muscle built into them where they almost didn't give a fuck to if they just got hung up on, if they just got cursed out, and they just dusted off real quick, get back to the phones. They'd almost celebrated in a way, like they weren't doing their job until this happened. They experienced some type of friction. So once I started being like adapting their mindset and celebrating the no's, it's a really big thing. Celebrate those no's. You're doing your job right if you're getting the no's, because you truly do have to get through the no's to get to the yes type thing. I just started getting my reps in and building up that resiliency muscle, experience the cursing, the FUs, the hang-ups, and acknowledge that it happened. Go introspective and be like, okay, what can I tweak? What adjustment can I make? And then just boom, pick up the phone, make the next dial, get to work.
So question, do you remember what probably your most brutal rejection was, or is there any rejections that kind of stand out that you're like, oh, that fucking sucked like that?
Yeah, it was outside sales. I had a meeting. I got a meeting with the CFO of a company, went in, and not even kidding, the first thing out of his mouth, we both sat down across his executive desk. He was on one side, I was on the other. Right out the gates, looks at me, stoic. I don't know why the fuck I took this meeting with you. I never make time for vendors. I acknowledged it. Took me aback a little bit, and then I just launched into things. I was a little bit more tenured at this point, so I just launched into things. Let alone he never gives vendors 10, 15 minutes. That meeting turned into an hour and a half. And by the end of the meeting, I was showing him Instagram videos. It's because I found a common connection. Obviously went through like the sales process, but then also build rapport on the tail end, because I realized I uncovered that he went into the finance world, but he used to be a musician. So I kind of tapped into that too, found that common ground. And by the end of the meeting, I was showing him videos of my band, performing and guitarists, and I closed that deal. And like I said, in my newbie days, fresh blood to the sales world, I would like feel the pain. I'd feel just like the hurt of when I got hung up on, and I'd almost like be a little bit nervous to like, did my teammates, like I almost felt judged, like what do they think about that? Like I felt weird about getting hung up on. But then I was like, okay, I started really looking out and seeking out, from other sales professionals, top performers, getting their feedback, and just, it's one of the big things that really struck home with me is what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? And I took that when I took it into my cold calling, I'm like, okay, what's the worst that could happen by me making this call to the CEO? And I know he hung up on me 3 times. What's the worst that could happen? He could hang up on me a 4th time. What else could happen? I can be on my A game when I'm on this call, lock in and get a meeting with that decision maker. So what's the worst that could happen? Hung up, curse, okay, whatever. But once you like realize that, acknowledge it, and then move forward with it, that's where things start to change for the better. That's where you start to see your conversions increase, close more deals, all that sort of stuff. So just really being aware of that, acknowledging it, but keep pushing forward. What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen if I make this call? What's the worst that can happen if I'm out in person and I go into this business where I what's on the other side of the door? I can't even see into this office. It's like, what's the worst that could happen? They can kick me out, but what also could happen, I can land a meeting. This could be a huge target account that I've been trying to close. You need to, once you start feeling that fear creep up on you, once you start feeling uncomfortable, that's where things start to get interesting, because right on the other side of that, that's where success really happens. So just push through it.
Sure. And so you were kind of talking about building resilience to kind of failure. So do you just not feel pain now? Like when somebody just rejects you, just feel nothing? Or is this something that you still feel a little bit of the sting, but you just know how to manage it?
Yeah, I would say more on the I know how to manage it. Once these sort of things happen, you know, you get hung up on, you get cursed out, you lose out on a deal, like take some time to be mad, upset, sad, like allot yourself that time to be like, fuck this shit, god damn it, you know, like really like, okay, that's okay to happen, you know, be mad, be sad, but just get the fuck over it real quick and move on. So yeah, as time goes on, I started building up the, like, cool, this happens. That's another thing to realize too. Like, when you're in sales, nonstop no's, and they make that yes all the more beautiful. So just realize if you're getting this hesitations, you're running into roadblocks, you're getting all these no's, that's super normal. Being a part of a winning culture is like having a team around you that celebrates the no's. So hopefully you're in that environment where, you know, people are in the trenches with you. Those are the people, your teammates, that want to see you succeed the most. So hopefully that's not too toxic of a culture, but that all your teammates, that environment should be, they should be celebrating all those no's. There's parallels with sales and just life outside the office for sure. The dating world for sure. Like I've had people that I've mentored and coached that are using the same things that, you know, we're working on to increase their conversions and increase their close rates. They're taking this sort of thing and using it in the dating world. And those conversions and those close rates have definitely increased. So there's parallels.
Is there anything else that you kind of wish somebody told you when you were first getting started in regards to dealing with failure and dealing with rejection and the pain that comes with it?
Like, I really want to stress that point. When you start to feel uncomfortable, when you feel that fear creep up in you, like what you need to do is acknowledge it, that's there, but move forward in a positive direction and push through it. You can either do nothing or retreat. Those are your other options. And what happens when you do that? Regret happens. Push forward, acknowledge it, move forward, make it happen. What's the worst that can happen? So huge for me when I finally wrapped my head around that and started just saying that internally in my head before I would go out and do something, before I walked into an office building, before I picked up the phone. It's just a little mantra that I had. What's the worst that can happen? Those two things right there are huge.